Welcome to Tech Tuesday. My name is Abby Ritchie. I'm the founder and CEO of Senior Savvy, and you can find me right here every Tuesday talking with people who are engaged in age tech innovation. It's an exciting place to be, and I'm excited to bring my guest on. But before I do that, let's go ahead and run our intro. Welcome back to Tech Tuesday. I'm really looking forward to having my guest on today. And without further ado, Bob Roth, welcome to Tech Tuesday.
Thank you, Abby. It is really a privilege and honor to be here on Tech Tuesday with you. I've been following you for some time and we've recently become friends. So what a great honor. So thank you for having me and certainly talking about a very important topic today with you and your guests.
100%. And yeah, for those of you that don't know, Bob and I are neighbors, both live in Scottsdale. We have an opportunity to see each other, and I have learned so much from Bob in the meetings that we've had, specifically about what he's involved in regards to technology and helping the caregiver shortage. So, Bob, first, could you introduce yourself to our viewers and let them know what you're doing every day with Cypress, please?
Sure. We are in the in-home care service business. I like to refer to in-home supportive care services business. Oftentimes, home care and home health get confused. The lines are kind of blurred. So, I want to make it really clear the work that we do is we assist older adults primarily with activities of daily living and helping them get dressed, whether it be bathing, going to the bathroom, reminding them about medications, preparing meals, getting them to appointments. We're that extra pair of hands, eyes, feet. I almost look at ourselves as surrogate sons and daughters when the sons and daughters cannot be there. So we started up our home care company 30 years ago. It'll be 30 years in 2024. And basically, it was a personal experience that took me and my brothers into this business. We were caregivers for my mother back in 1985, and there were not home care companies like Cypress around at that time. So we pulled together in 1994 and started Cypress Home Care Solutions. I joined the company in 2003, and here we are, nearly 30 years old, and we're here because we've been able to evolve and innovate, because the only way to be able to be around is to be able to really keep up with the times. Times have changed. Technology has changed everything. And I think we're going to talk a little bit about that today. So, Abby, thank you for having me.
My pleasure. My pleasure. And, when you mentioned something just a minute ago, it was about how, caregivers come in as the place of a son or a daughter. And a lot of times when we're working with clients and helping them with their tech support, we are also trying to be like the nice niece or the available nephew who just lives down the street, who's going to be able to help them with technology and really create a personalized approach to helping people in their time of need. And so I was happy to hear you say that, because it really helps situate a mindset in which you're there to serve someone who needs some extra help.
So true. And, it is such a personal thing, too. And people need to remember that when a care recipient opens up their door to a caregiver, they open their life to them. And there are various caregivers out there. There are a lot of people out there that are 1099 workers. There are friends, there are family members. There's, paid professionals as well. We certainly want to make sure that we're protecting one of the most vulnerable populations in our community. And I'm an advocate of doing that. And I think employer-based agencies like Cypress and so many others check a lot of boxes to make sure that that person that is walking into that person's life, that vulnerable person's life, has been checked out, has the skill sets, and is going to do right by that person that they're serving. So, I appreciate you allowing me to talk about that, because There's so many out there that, are, very susceptible, and they'll open their door just to anybody. And today you have to be really careful, and employer-based agencies will ensure that that protection is in place.
So, in senior living, we talk all the time about there's two major issues. One is occupancy, and the other one is a shortage of qualified, talented, passionate people to help. And so I wanted to talk today about the technology that's going to serve this population, that's going to help caregivers, and it's going to help stretch their time while they're caregiving. And in your opinion, how long has this caregiver shortage been going on for?
A long time. No, but honestly, when you really look at the data, and that, we are aging at such a rapid rate. I mean, you're talking about, the aging that we're going to be doing is astronomical. I mean, when you look at it, the 65 and older population will make up 21% of our population come 2030. And that's right now, it's about 15% of our population. And the 80 and older population is going to nearly quadruple between now and 2040. So those are daunting numbers, but the even more daunting numbers is, there's a company called the Paraprofessional Healthcare Institute out of New York, and they've been tracking direct care workers for nearly 40 years. Now, those direct care workers are working with us in home care, but they're also working with you. When I say you, the industry you cover a lot of, and that is the senior living community. So to give you an idea, between 2010 and 2020, that workforce went from 3.1 million people to 4.6 million. So that grew by 1.5 million. And that doesn't happen by accident. We know that beginning in 2011, the baby boomers started turning 65 at a clip of 10,000 a day. So the needs are growing at such a rapid rate, and we estimate that the needs are going to be about an additional 1.3 million jobs that are going to be needed between now and 2029. And where are we going to get those? That remains to be seen, because our workforce shortage isn't just happening to us in the direct care worker area, but all we have to do is look at, restaurants. We look at retailers. We're all struggling to try to find people that will do this type of work. So because we are dealing with such a shortfall, we need to rely on innovation and technology. And in order to innovate, I learned a long time ago, you have to collaborate. I can't sit here in a ivory tower and innovate on my own. I have to look to others and learn. I actually got a chance to meet Steve Moran many years ago, 2014. I met him at Aging 2.0, which is having their annual conference next week in Louisville. And I, was embracing and looking at innovation back in 2014. And certainly I've learned and seen a lot. And, we're starting to embrace some of that right now, because it is hard to find workers, direct care workers. And now that we're finding direct care workers, we have right now in our space, and certainly in the senior living space, we have two headwinds that are hitting us really hard. And that is, one, direct care workers, so employees finding caregivers, but the other part is the cost of our services. And since the pandemic, home care has gone up almost 40%. And I'm assuming that the senior living space has also seen an increase, maybe not quite as much, but an increase in costs. So we have families that are trying to squeeze as much juice out of the orange as they can, and they're trying to do more with less. And I respect and understand that. But if we can't get live caregiving in there and being in there during the day parts that are needed, then tech and innovation is going to be part of that solution. Has to be. People want to stay at home, and it's the least costly place to be.
Well, I'm curious about how you're able to attract qualified caregivers to come work with you. What tactics and what methods have you found that have been successful?
Well, technology has really helped. you know, if you had asked me 5 years ago what an application tracking system is, an ATS, because that's the acronym that we all use, I would have said, I have no idea. We were
Right.
fishing in a huge pond. We were obviously looking at Indeed and Craigslist and others, but we have to use tech and innovation to help us discern
But
through the myriad of applicants that we're getting to come in the door.
was it a big pond though, 5 years ago?
Was it a big problem? Yeah,
A big
it was
pond.
a big pond. Oh, it was bigger than it is now. There are two
Okay.
things that happen, Abby. One, you may or may not be aware of, certainly those that are in the home care business know this, is we used to have what is called the companion exemption rule. And that was a
Okay.
rule that was passed by the FSLA back in 1974. And it
Right.
allowed for workers that were working with children and older adults to not have to be paid overtime. And it wasn't to really hurt the direct care worker, it was the consumer that had just so few dollars to be able to care for their loved ones, whether it be a child or older adult. So we didn't have to pay overtime. In 2014, that went away. And we
Mm.
literally lost almost 15 to 20% of our workforce because they were working overtime and they wanted to work overtime. And now, as agencies, we couldn't work them overtime because our margins were just evaporating. So they went underground. So the pond started shrinking then, and then it shrunk again after the pandemic happened. And, we kind of created this monster. We had unemployment benefits that came from the federal government, and we had unemployment benefits that came from the state. And in the state of Arizona, you and I are neighbors. When the pandemic first started, caregivers were collecting nearly $22 an hour in unemployment benefits. And many of them, and I know this from talking to them, were collecting
Mhm.
those and they were working underground and getting paid under the table. And we discern maybe 15% of that workforce never came back as well. So not only do we have a shortage, we've had a lot of caregivers in both our space and the senior living space go underground.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned just a little while ago the use of technology to offset some of this shortage. What do you anticipate and what do you see happening that's been helpful?
Well, the big buzzword today is artificial intelligence, right?
Yeah.
It
Right.
is really getting a lot of traction, and a lot of
Hmm.
people are looking to artificial intelligence to help them in many different ways. Businesses are, obviously businesses are trying to figure out how they can do more with less as well, not just families that we're caring for. So, we live in a space in home care and senior living as well, which is a very personal space, right? It's a space that, it requires human connections. You
Hmm.
know, we have to never lose sight to the fact that technology makes things possible. It's humans that make things happen. So, how do
Yeah.
we utilize and embrace technology? And I've looked at a lot of different things, Abby, and you have as well. We all know about the remote patient monitoring systems that are out there. They connect with
Mhm.
Bluetooth, and some people are using cameras, but when you poll, seniors and older adults, they don't want that privacy, um, intruded on. So they want to figure out, how, or we want to figure out how we can protect older adults. And, we have embraced artificial intelligence. We're using it right now. We've got actually 6 of our clients that are on services right now utilizing those. And it's not
Mhm.
replacing the live caregiving. It is a bolt on, and it just adds more value to it. Excuse me. So it's we look at it more as a virtual care assistant than
Mhm.
technology. So basically, as you know, with artificial intelligence requires the establishment of patterns, right? So
Yeah.
we can't install artificial intelligence and the next day discern that a fall is about to happen, or the client may have a UTI. We have to establish patterns. So it takes sometimes as much as 3 or 4 weeks to establish a pattern in someone's
Okay.
home. And then what we're looking for is we're looking for those breaks in the patterns so that we
Mhm.
discern whether an event is about to happen. So we have some good traction with this. It's really exciting. It certainly checks the box where family members are trying to squeeze a lot of juice from that orange as much as they can, but they can't get the live caregiving. Um,
Yeah.
we can add value to this. And what we've done with it too is we've made the considerable investment. So
Mhm.
we're taking that burden off the client. So we're baking it into the cost. We don't want to be saying, you know, you want to get artificial intelligence, it's an extra $3 or $5. You want this, it's an extra a couple dollars. I don't want to cherry pick that. I want to tell them this is your price, this is what you
Mhm.
get. And for us, it really gives us an opportunity to not only innovate but differentiate us from the others that are out there.
I want to drill down a little bit on this specific AI that you are using. So, can you tell us what you've chosen and how it's helping right now, please?
Yeah, so the company we chose is a company called Sensei AI. They're Israeli based, and basically, it's an integrated technology that basically it's small data pods. I have a link that I shared with you and Jada, so please share with the viewers.
Mhm.
Basically, they're like Rubik's cubes that are sitting inside the home, and they're white boxes, and it gives us an opportunity to get more situational analysis and awareness on what's going on. And the cubes have a self-contained network. They plug into existing power outlets and run 24/7. And basically, they analyze ambient, it's easy for me to say, audio data and sound vibrations. And
Mhm.
and occasionally they give us insights to what's happening. So they trend, there's monitoring that's going on. There are notifications that are sent to us about the care environment when there's a change in condition. We've had a couple events that we've avoided. We discerned a UTI that we were able to discover because of the frequency of the bathroom visits. We also avoided a fall. So I mean, those are really good things to have and to know. And the artificial intelligence picked that up for us. So
And
we're still we're in the infancy of this, but we're really
Mhm.
excited. We like what Sensei AI has. I'm not here to say that that's who we're going to be with forever, but for
Mhm.
us, artificial intelligence is something that we brought into the home so that we can put that extra layer of protection on that older, really vulnerable adult.
So it's an auditory sensing AI, correct?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. And why would you choose that, say, over a different type of sensor or even a camera?
Well, first of all, as I said to you before about cameras, older adults do not want cameras,
Mhm.
and we need to put them in high traffic areas and risky areas too. So,
Mhm.
each client will get at least three, and if the home is big enough, we may add additional ones. But the real reason why we went with it is so simple. As I said, you just plug them in. You plug them in, and there's no getting your phone out and trying to connect the Wi-Fi and connecting Bluetooth. We have to
Yeah.
remember this generation that we're caring for doesn't
Mhm.
have the tech savvy that you or I do. But the other thing
Mhm.
we do need to remember is we are going through a generational shift, and not a
Mhm.
lot of people are talking about it. So the silence and the GI generation are the ones that are dying off. They're the ones we've been caring for primarily for the last 30 years. And I'm a baby boomer, so the baby boomers are the ones we're caring for. And the caregivers, when we were talking about workforce, they are millennials and they're Gen Zs that are doing
Mhm.
the caregiving, which is very different from the boomers and the silence and GIs that we had caregiving previously. But the reason why we chose Sensei AI, it's least intrusive. It was easy to connect, and we're starting to see some results, and others have seen results as well.
Who's monitoring this?
It's a great question. You know, the great thing about it is we don't have like somebody sitting in front of all these televisions, right, or all these computers waiting for things to happen. The system itself, the artificial intelligence, sends out alerts, and
Mhm.
whoever's on that list, right? It could be a family member. It certainly is us. It could be a physician. We'll get those alerts. So the alerts will come out to us through the artificial intelligence, through the computers.
And the alert will say something like, it's a
Me-
fall has been detected, or
A,
there's
a
been extra
medication
physician.
a medication error may have occurred, and alert us to the medication error
Okay.
that may have occurred. So that may require us contacting the caregiver. It may require us going in and making a supervisory visit. So an alert comes across, and it doesn't tell us exactly what happened. It tells us what artificial intelligence or the computers think may have happened. So we want to be able to react. The whole goal is to prevent a medical event from happening, right? So if we can intercede before that, that is the ultimate goal. So the goal is to keep them at home, keep them safe,
Right.
keep them comfortable, and keep them out of the ER and urgent cares.
Definitely. If you're going to add anything to this suite of AI, what's missing?
Wow. You know, I I work, or should I say, I serve on the board for the Arizona State University HEAL Lab, and it's the Healthcare Entrepreneur Accelerator Lab. And I will tell you, Abby, we sit here in the backyard of Arizona State University. I'm not an alumni. I don't know if you are, so I'm not here pimping or promoting ASU. But what Dr. Crow has done there is amazing, nothing short of amazing. I mentioned Aging 2.0, so we back in 2016, 17, and 18 did pitch contests on their campus. We
Mhm.
did it at Sky Song. And I got a chance to work with the engineering school who has a entrepreneurship program. And there was a professor there, Richard Philly, and I got together, and we baked up this idea. And I still think it has merit. And I'm really pleased to see that Ring, the camera company, has come up with a drone, and the drone is really little. And when I talk about artificial intelligence, I mean, we have so many people, and we think of Maricopa County, and it's a very urban city, right? But we have a
Mhm.
lot of people living in rural areas, and it's really hard to get to. And I've tried to reach out to the folks at Ring. I believe they're owned by Amazon now, so I know that you and Steve may have some connections there. So maybe we can talk. But I really think the next generation is to put one of these, and literally it is like the size of that Rubik's Cube that I'm talking about. It's not that big. It can sit
Mhm.
on a charging unit, and just like a Roomba, it can deploy and it can go around the home, and it's got a
Mhm.
camera and a microphone. And certainly when you discern a change in patterns, let's say there's no movement and it's hard to get to that location, how cool would it be to deploy the drone and be able to find my fictitious client, Mrs. Abramson? And
Ugh.
hypothetically, we found her in the bathroom on the floor. We could talk to her. We could discern what's going on. We can contact 911. I really believe that's the future. I believe in utilizing technology, and whether that's powered by AI or powered by humans, I think that we're just seeing the beginnings, and we really are. And
And
that's something I
I,
would like to see.
yeah, I think we are so close to that. I really do. When I went to ES earlier this year and saw some of the developments, especially in the Amazon Alexa arena, I think we are just steps away from seeing that become a reality.
Well, I tell you what, we talked about a executive director at one of the communities here,
Hmm.
and he's amazing, Cole Marvin over at Friendship Village. And
Yeah.
equally amazing is a fellow, and if you've not met him, John Scott Williams over at Fellowship Square in Mesa. Um, you and I need to go visit him, and you should see what he's done with Amazon Alexa. Matter of fact,
Oh,
he's had the Amazon folks at least half a dozen times out to his place over the last 4 or 5 years, because he's innovating He's doing really cool things in his community using Amazon Alexa.
Awesome. Awesome. We're constantly on the lookout for executive directors who are doing innovative things at their communities with the use of technology. And so this is great. And if you happen to know of anyone else who is innovating with the use of technology in their community, we want to know about it. So please reach out to us. And
it's like I said, in order to innovate, you have to collaborate, right? So it's a collaboration.
Absolutely.
We need to work together. And that's the only way we evolve.
Yeah. Last week on the show, we talked about hearing aid technology development. And, I was really happy to hear that there's a new type of Bluetooth that's going to be available anywhere in a public setting for hearing aid users. And it's coming under the same umbrella as how Bluetooth originated, which a collaboration of engineers and who are all coming together, working on this technology and creating something that's going to be cross-platform and widely used. And so I 100% agree that collaboration leads towards innovation for greater use and for everyone. And so I'm excited to learn more about that and also see what Friendship Square is doing for sure.
Fellowship Square. Everyone gets them confused, but you and I will talk offline, and I certainly would love to take you over there and see what he's doing.
Yeah, let's do it. So with just a couple minutes left, where do you see this technology offsetting the shortage? I mean, how much technology do we need to have in place in order to close that gap in from the shortage of caregivers?
I don't know. Because I really don't believe that we can replace humans with robots. I think we need to really think differently. There's some companies out there that are doing fractional care, which makes a lot of sense to me because, look, there are people living in communities like the ones we just described who, don't need 4, 6, 8, 12 hours of care. The biggest difference in, look, this is an area that you report a lot on, right? In the senior living communities. In the last 20 years, the people that are going into independent living are less healthy than they were 20 years ago. They have more deficits, and many of them are borderline assisted living, but they want to be in the independent living side. And you and I both know, Abby, there's that line, that demarcation line going from independent to assisted. And the independent people don't want to go over to the assisted because they know deep down inside they're never going to get back to being independent. So how do we keep them independent in those communities? And how do we keep people independent in the home? And we have to think of new models of care. We have to think differently. If we don't think differently, we're going to become obsolete. And people don't, boomers, which is going to be me that's receiving care. We don't want to be institutionalized, because that's the way it was done 40 and 50 years ago, right? We want to be able to stay at home. We want to be able to go into one of these communities that have all the different levels of care, and we want to try to remain as independent as possible. So we need to think differently. I don't think technology is going to replace care directly, but I think technology is going to improve the way we deliver care. And it's going to be a nice wraparound service to the live caregiving that needs to be done. So ultimately, what we need to do is we need to attract more people into the direct care workforce area. It's not a solve that we're going to do in the next year or two. It's a 10 to 20 year solve. And, I'm very passionate about this. It's just like it is with teachers. I mean, caregivers and teachers are probably one of the most underpaid professions out there. And they're probably the most important professions out there. So I will leave you with this. The hardest thing is that people are not prepared for long-term care. People, what was it? Ronald Reagan said the five words that you should be fearful of is that the government is here to help. We need to figure out ways to pay for care. And most people are not prepared. They're not prepared to pay the money to get into assisted living or independent living, and certainly not prepared to get care in the home. Dr. Joseph Coughlin said many years ago that 1/3 of our population today is living home alone, aging by themselves. By between 2040 and 2050, that number is going to encroach on 50%. And how do we care for all these older adults that are aging in place? Tech is going to be a big piece, but we need live caregiving to do it too.
Yeah. Thank you, Bob. And if people want to get in contact with you, what's the best way for them to reach you?
My email is probably the best way. I watch for that. It's Bob Roth at cypresshomecare.com. They're welcome to call my office at 602-264-8009. You and I are not the king and queen of media, but I host a radio show. It's on Money Radio, 1510 AM, 105.3 FM, and the World Wide Web, moneyradio1510.com. We're now podcasting. So I've been on the air for 10 years. I write a column too. So, link into me. LinkedIn is a good place for you to find me. I, like you, Abby, really try to stay up to speed on the latest and greatest. Otherwise, like I said earlier, you're going to become obsolete, and we need to really think differently in this day and age.
Great. Thank you so much for those words of wisdom. And thank you for being my guest today. And for those of you who are visiting us in the chat, and for those of you who are watching this later, we thank you so much for taking an interest in this. And we always appreciate your collaboration as well. And we will see you all back here next week.
Thank you.